Hello, and welcome to another episode of Entertainment Roadmap. We are here today with Sofia Dobrushin. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. So nice to meet y'all virtually.
It's so nice to meet you too. And I have to say, before we even start, your role in Mean Girls, iconic. I was waiting for it the whole time. It's my favorite line from the original movie,
Oh
and
my God.
you went and made it 10 times better.
Oh my God. Thank you. That's so awesome. I
Every
really appreciate that.
in my theater was hysterically laughing at that part. And I think it's one of the parts that got the most audience laughter. So I just had to let you know.
Oh my gosh. No, that's great. I love it. I love most of the time my friends have been sending me clips of them in the movie theater, which is like, it reminds me of those old tapes where they're like, do not record in the movie theater or we're gonna find you. But now that's just all TikTok anyhow. So it's lovely to hear that because most of the time my friends sent it to me and it's just them screaming in the in the movie theater. And I'm like, these other people in the movie theater have no idea what's going on. But
In my screening also, it was the part that got the most laughs. I went to twice, and like both times, so many people laughed at that
oh
part.
my God, okay. My Leo sun and rising is on fire right now. I love that. Thank you.
And today in my work group chat, there was some issue where they added the wrong person and she started talking to us. And then when they removed her, one of my coworkers go, she doesn't even go here. And I was like, I am interviewing the Sophia from the movie who said that line today. And everyone was like, that is awesome. Like
Oh
they
my
all
God.
loved your part. So I was like, we got you confirmed for this interview, we were so excited.
Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. I really appreciate it. And that's like awesome that I've like infiltrated the Slack lore.
So kind of getting into the questions, how long
Yeah.
have you been acting for and how did you get into acting?
Oh boy. I mean, okay, so it all started with the eighth grade musical, Bye Bye Birdie. And I was the only Latina in my class. And so I was like, I'm getting Rose Alvarez and nobody can stop me. And that's how I knew I was a theater kid, because like that's absurd. And I brought like props to my audition in eighth grade. Everyone was like, she takes it really seriously. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I feel really connected to this for some reason. I don't know why. And then yeah, I just sort of kept doing theater in high school. And then I always actually wanted to direct. That was like my main goal growing up. I used to always make like short films with my friends that I'm still actually making films with them now, like 20 years later, which is just awesome to see the trajectory of that. But just like I started directing and like wanting to do that. And then I realized that you could act. It's just called theater, um, especially in like high school. And I always like, I'm an only child, so I was always entertaining myself, doing so many things, talking to so many stuffed animals. And yeah, I just kept doing it. And then I was lucky enough to have parents who really like were supportive of this lifestyle. I was never really good at like math or science, and I always was wondering like why it just wasn't computing for me, why this part of my brain wasn't like working. But then I think them seeing me find this form that really just made sense to me in so many different ways, um, just really stood out. So they were like, "Go ahead, let's follow, let's see that through." And then actually I recently talked about this at like a different audition, but I have my grandmother, I digitalized all these like VHS tapes during the pandemic because like what else are you gonna do? It's just like go through your family trauma, and and beautiful memories. And so I found this tape of me, and it's my grandmother, and she's like, and she like we have the same name, where like my middle name's Raquel, and that was her name. And it's like me at 6 months old, and she just goes, "You're gonna be an actress." And I was like, watching this like 20 years later, not have ever seen this before, actually actively acting and like trying to actively work, seeing that my grandmother like manifested this for me. I was like, hey girl. And so I got to like wear, I have this like nameplate that my aunt gave me that was like her name, her necklace. And my character doesn't have a name, it's just Teary Girl. So I like wore it in the film. You can't tell because it's like so fast, but I wore it to sort of like pay homage to her and be like, she predicted this, and here I am in my first like blockbuster movie, and I'm glad that like, you know, I couldn't have done it without her. So yeah, I just really got into it because it felt right, and I had a family that really saw that. So yeah.
That's such a sweet story. I love that little tidbit about the necklace. Next time I go and watch, I will be looking out for it and pausing it so I see it.
Well, the first necklace is actually this necklace. So I have one in the first scene where I'm like doing my whole crying thing. And it's like a little dumbbell weight, but my mom got me that necklace and it had something on it. Like I have had that necklace for forever, but it said like, "You are so strong." And I was like, I'm taking that off. And I like kept the dumbbell. So then I was like, okay, she's a track girly. Sure. And so I like brought that on. I just like bringing my own little touches to things, like little Easter eggs for myself that like I can look back on in how many years and be like, that's fun that I have this like little memento that I brought in. Like when I did High Maintenance, it was like my first ever acting gig on TV or film, and I am wearing like one of my mom's like watches that she got when she was like born, and so it's just like fun to bring in little like aspects of myself in like little physical manifestations. I don't know.
I love that so much, and now like whoever watches this, like they're gonna be in on the little Easter egg, and I love
Right?
that.
It's kind
And
of
then
fun. It's fun to have
nobody else
Easter
will
eggs.
know. Yes.
Exactly.
Also,
Um,
last thing on
yeah.
that, I just feel like that's so uniquely you. Like that's something I've never heard before. And I feel like that's just something so unique to who you are as an actor. And that's really awesome.
Oh, thanks.
What was the audition process like for Mean Girls?
So this is kind of some tea, which I'm gonna talk about it because honestly, like this industry is bananas.com. And I think the more people are transparent about how it goes, you have a better idea of like your future. So ironically enough, I got dropped by my agent and manager 2 days before they sent me this audition. And I was like, oh, awesome. Okay, well, back to doing it all myself, which is sort of the name of the game. And honestly, it's the natural process of it all. But then 2 days later, I get an email from the agent who just dropped me being like, hey, so we submitted you for this before everything happened between us, LOL. Do you still want to do it? And I was like, yeah, like of course I'm still gonna do this. Like, yeah. Also, it's like and then I was like, I'm gonna do this, and you know what? I'm gonna book it. Not, but then you never know. But seeing it, I worked on We Crashed with Apple TV, and this was also just like a huge experience where I'm like, oh, this is an industry. This is like it is what they say, connections, la di 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 do do do. So basically, I'm gonna take it way back. So basically, I got this audition, right? But I noticed the casting. The casting was Chelsea, who I had worked with before, because they cast me in We Crash. And Chelsea's amazing. They cast a lot of like musicals and New York television, and they actually cast I don't know if you've heard about the musical Titanic. That's like off Broadway. That's like so funny. And I saw it like a month ago, and I was like, wow, theater is alive and well in New York City. But then I noticed that they cast this musical, and they just like champion for working actors in a way that I haven't really seen a lot of, especially now we see like big names being brought to theater, and like big film actors being brought over to like do a play because it'll bring in tickets. But Chelsea always knows how to bring in like people who are working in the city, in the town, and who want to work. And so I saw that they're casting this, and so I was like, okay, I have a working relationship with them. It's not far off. And also the reason I got We Crash to begin with and have this working relationship with them is because the casting director, Andrew Fem, or Fem Casting, they cast me in High Maintenance, and then they cast me in a musical workshop for some random theater festival up in Vassar, where people from Chelsea saw me in it. And it was like a musical where I was like a queer, depressed Latinx teen. So, I was like, absolutely been there, done that, let's ride. And so then seeing that all these relationships are so interconnected, and knowing that like, okay, so this person saw me, they know I exist, they know I like love to cry in front of people, I guess. And and that they like trust my work. And so I saw that and was like, okay, I'm gonna do what I can, especially since this is like sort of my last shot with this agency before I have no idea what the future holds. And so then they called me in for 4 different roles, and they sort of just kept calling me in to do self-tapes, and I kept submitting it. And yeah, I put on my boyfriend's tracksuit outfit from high school, and I, you know, made myself cry. And then 2 months later, I got an email from the manager who also had previously, we stopped working together, and she said, Telsey's trying to find you. Send them an email. They're trying to see if you're available, and I hope it works out for you. All the best. Here you go. And I was like, okay, that's awesome. Like, it can feel really personal when like relationships change, but knowing that these people were still like championing for me and like wanting me to still work also made me feel like, okay, there were no like bridges burned. This is just how it goes. And now I sort of have a better idea. So I like emailed the casting people, since I had a working relationship with them already. We communicated. They gave me a phone call the next day. I screamed and jumped around with my friends. And then randomly, and then I was there. And that was that.
That's such a fun story. And I just have to ask one question. Did you do a lot at Vassar? Because I went to Marist, which was right down the road.
Did I? No, so wait, what were you asking?
Oh, did you, because you brought up Vassar College. So I was just wondering, did you do a lot at Vassar? Just because I was
so no, this was just, so there's this theater festival called, a theater and film festival, actually. It's New York Stage and Film puts it on, called Powerhouse. Mm-hmm. And so they workshop a lot of new work. Like Hamilton was workshopped there. The Notebook musical that's on Broadway was there the same year I was there workshopping a different musical. But yeah, I was just there for 2 weeks in July of like 2019. And it was like, we called it like Queer Summer Theater Camp because we were in like the dorms in Vassar, and it was like a musical full of like queer people that were exploring very intense themes. So, you know, we trauma bonded and it was awesome. And like, I was there with like Mason Alexander Park, who's now like blown up into this huge actor, and they're incredible. Yari Jones, who's also this amazing trans woman model. And so it was just cool to see that like that was like a very pinnacle point for so many people, of like a jumping off point, and seeing like where we would go in different aspects of our careers. And it's been pretty cool to see.
That's awesome. And so in Mean Girls, as we kind of talked about at the beginning, you have one of the most iconic scenes. So what was it like to film that iconic "She Doesn't Even Go Here" scene?
I was so nervous because I mean, it didn't really hit me until like I got the script, because I was like reading it and going over it, and I was also watching like Only Murders in the Building at the time. And so then I was watching Only Murders at the Building, and like Tina Fey comes up on the screen, and I was like, oh my God, wait. I was like, I'm gonna be acting with her. Okay. All right. And so then I stopped watching it because it was freaking me out. And then I just like prepped, but on that day it was a bunch of extras. It was, so we shot for 2 days in March and 2 days in April, but March was like the gym like apology scene. And it was a bunch of extras, and people don't know who I am, obviously, because I'm new to the scene, and I'm green, and I'm a baby, and I'll be a baby for as long as I can be, you know? And so, you know, there was a lot of confusion on set because there were so many actors, and there were also so many people who were like backgrounds. So the like lingo on set can get kind of confusing. So basically nobody knew what I was there for or why, except like the main crew who that's their job. But so like it was a little nerve-wracking. And Gore, super sweet. She immediately like introduced herself to me in the makeup trailer, and was super just like accommodating. And I was like, wow, you're literally the star of this, and you're immediately just introducing yourself. I love that. That's how it should be. And then like everybody else was sort of like sweet, but was like in their own lane, as they should be. If there's a lot of people on set and you have all these lines, you have to focus, that's exhausting. So I wasn't really talking to a lot of people. And it wasn't until I like went up there and did my thing It was a little meta. Where people started coming up to me and being like it was the first time I had like producers and like Moana, just kidding, her actual name Auli'i, but yeah, like people coming up to me being like, hey, that was good, you did a good job, and I was like, oh, okay, thank you. It was really nerve-wracking, but I also like I'm pretty trained, so like I remember one of the actors was like, take your time. And I was like, I I don't have that. Like, I appreciate that and I really love that. And I hope to have the time one day to actually like take my time to get into a scene. But like as a working actor who's brought on for 4 days, I know that they don't have the time and I don't have the time to take my time. So it was really more, I just wanted to like show that I am efficient, that I can take direction, and that I can cry if you need me to without little time. But yeah, it was awesome. It was really cool. And it was also wild just because we filmed in a school that had a low enrollment rate in Jersey. So basically they just rented this school that was essentially abandoned. So at first I was like, what's going on? These kids are going to come back and their school's going to be turned upside down. But no kids are coming back. So that's good. But then we filmed in this like gym that looked just like my high school gym growing up, where I went to like an all-girls Catholic school where we would sit in this gym for mass and I would just like fantasize about eating lunch and like getting out of there. And I literally joined like the choir just so I could sing to keep myself awake during mass. And so it was really funny to be back in this like tan gym that's like blue and gold, which are like my high school colors, with like all of the like, in the high school gyms where they're like championship of like this year and championship of this year. And I was like, wow, this is a flashback. So it was really just like surreal to be back in a high school gym crying, but like for fun this time. And it was just really surreal. And Tina was really great. And she was like super sweet. And she was like on her producer multi-hyphenate I don't know, can I swear in this podcast? She was on her producer shit. She was like doing so many things at once, but also when it was like time for her scenes, I mean, she's amazing. Everybody knows that she's Tina Fey, like, of course. But just watching her work and also being able to work with her, there's actually we improvised a whole bit that didn't make it into the movie, which I was really hoping it would because it was so fun. So like when she takes me off of the bleachers, she's like, oh, it's okay. And I just didn't know what to do or like keep going. I was like, okay, yes, and she's Tina Fey. And so I'm like crying and then I'm like, I don't even know, I'm not good at running. Or I was like, I'm not even good at running. And she was like, okay, well, have you thought of like doing anything else? There's a bunch of different things you can do than just running and track and field. And I was like, I just joined for the outfit. And it didn't make it in, but it was just awesome to like, she had her arms around me. I'm like, we're improvising. I was like, what is going on? I'm blacking out. And so it was just like very cool and surreal. And then it was really sweet because the sound guy at the end of the day, when he was like taking my mic back when I was wrapped, he was like, how was it improvising with Tina Fey? And I was like, and you're a real one for that. And you're a real one for recognizing that, because I don't think I even processed it to this day fully. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
I love that story, especially the improvising part. Like, maybe they'll release some like outtakes or some bloopers or something.
I'm just
I don't
saying,
know.
they released like a blooper reel at our like rap party, which was really awesome. And I'm like, they really should. It was funny. I mean, I didn't make it into the blooper reel, but like it was a lot of like John Hamm just like being goofy, and I was like, the people need to see that.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, Allison, did you wanted to say something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say that was a really good story, and we need a blooper reel, and whoever we can talk to make that happen, me and Noah will be the first thing on the what is it?
Me too.
Fund me,
Yes.
but The petition.
And also, like how you mentioned, and Gary was really nice. We talked to some of the extras in the movie, and they all had like nothing but nice things to say about the principal cast of this movie,
Oh
which
yeah.
is like how they all talk to the extras and everything, and we're just personable and approachable. And I feel like we don't hear that often when it
Well,
comes
yeah,
to like big
especially
movies.
when it's like there's so much going on and you have to
Hmm.
focus. Like people also are like, "Oh, that's so rude that they're not talking." And it's like, "Well, they're working. Like
Hmm.
it's their job to be working like this, and they also don't really owe it to anybody." And that's something you also have to know, like as an extra or as somebody on set, like there are 5 billion people doing 5 billion things at once. And the best thing is just to listen and like stay aware of your surroundings. And then people also like respect that and like understand that, okay, you're a professional. You're not here just to like fan out. You're here to like work. And that was really cool. Was like I was sitting next to Renee and she was in like Birkenstocks and on her phone because of course she's doing 5 billion things in this film and like belting belting. And so I was just like, hey girl, like it was awesome. It's awesome working with you. I love you in Sex Lives and it's really cool to be able to like work alongside you. And she's like, oh, thanks, babe. That really means a lot. I really appreciate it. And I was like, babe, Renee, call
Well,
me babe.
to be called Babe
But
by Renee Rapp.
I know, I was like, keep it cool, girl. And you know, I did, but also I'm glad I get to talk about it now because I'm like, haha, she called me babe. um, but yeah, everyone was super sweet. Jacquel's amazing, super sweet person, and so talented, and was so fun to like work off of. Oh, and not to mention, like, so it was a bunch of like 30-year-old stunt women in teenage outfits catching people fall. And so after my scene, they were like catching people, and they don't catch me, which I was like, oh, you know, I was so close to falling into the arms of a bunch of hot 30-year-old women. And you know, maybe next time. But they were all super sweet, and after my scene, getting approval from them was the most like, because they've been doing this scene after scene, they've been here the entire movie doing so many insane fight scenes, but then after that they were like, that was funny, you should do that again. And I was like, okay, if the stunt people are into it, that's amazing. But yeah, everyone was super sweet. Everyone on set really like communicated well and like was they're good at reading the room, which was great.
That's so nice to hear. And also, you're in another really iconic scene, which is I See Stars at the end. And I saw your TikTok and how you're not actually the one singing. But so could you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was told that I was potentially going to go into ADR. I was told that like, I mean, to be honest, I knew I was singing from reading the script when I first got it, but I didn't know like the extent. I was also like, I like took voice lessons. I was like prepping because I wanted to be ready. I didn't have to sing in my audition because that's TV and film. I also wasn't expecting to, honestly, because so much of TV and film is dubbed. So I was just like, you know, I have that. I know that. Like I'm not getting my hopes up. But then also being on set and seeing like Auli'i and like all these people who are like phenomenal singers, I was like, oh, so there is a chance that I could sing. So I'm going to prep and do what I can just in case, but also knowing that it might not happen. But then, so in between shoots, so the March scene, and then this was shot in April, I like tore my MCL hardcore, which was awesome. And good timing on my part. But so I showed up to set and they were sort of just like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm good. But then also they were like, oh, and by the way, we're giving you the whole song now, basically, because the writers figured out some more expositional stuff. There was some more like cinematic universe elements that they could bring into it that, you know, in the musical, it makes more sense for like Caddy or Katie to sing like that whole song. But for a movie, you have to like wrap it up. So how are you going to do that? And so it was really like exciting for me because also like I love RuPaul, I love drag. I know lip syncing is like a hardcore thing to do. And I also like direct a lot of music videos. So I know like, okay, if you're going to be singing, you want to be singing full out or else it doesn't look real. And, you know, I had no idea whose voice it was. but I was just like, this girl can freaking sing, and I'm excited to just be the face of this voice for 2 seconds in any capacity. But yeah, the strike happened, and actually, randomly enough, the person who like edited sound and was basically like the main sound person on this was the sound person on this indie film called Booger that came out the past year that I'm in, and we like hung out before the strike, or I guess it was sort of mid-strike, and he was telling me that they were still bringing in people to like sing, and that hopefully once the strike's over that he'll be able to bring me in and like dub over that. And I was really excited because I knew all these people, but it never ended up happening. And I also was like, I didn't expect that. So I was just like excited that I had like connections so deep level on like down to the sound. I was like, oh wow, this is like not only just like a major movie that I'm working on, but it's like, oh, this also feels really affirming in terms of like how long I've been working. Like I've been in New York for like 10 years. I came here for school. I have a degree in acting, which was like, why did I do that? But now I'm using it. So that's great. I was, it could have gone any other way. So yeah, filming that, it was interesting because I just didn't know what to expect. I just wanted to make sure that one, I didn't hurt myself even more than I already had coming onto set. Two, that I could show them that even though I was hurt, I could really rock and roll. And then three, it was just like, I want to have fun, and I want to like, have my Disney Channel original rock star moment where we're on, when I have the band behind me and we're going for it. And the extras that day were awesome. And I also didn't realize that they probably thought it was actually me singing, because they were all like, that was awesome. And I was like, hey, thanks, I was just acting. Like, but then afterwards I was like, oh, they thought that was me. Okay. And then I was told by many people on set, being like, don't tell people that it's not you, just say that it's you. And I was like, so the thing is, that feels ethically weird. And I felt really ethically uncomfortable, and I kept going back and forth being like, yeah, well, I do musical comedy, I do sing, I want people to know that like I can do that, but I also am like, I want people to know me for also like the ethics I hold in an industry that is very much like can like skirt around ethics really easily. And it's like, it's really not a big deal. Also, it's like, they just released, like, Christopher Plummer won an Oscar and then died, and then they released that he sang in The Sound of Music, and they dubbed over him. And I was like, I don't want to die and then people be like, that wasn't actually her. I want to like be the one to be like, hey, first and foremost, it takes a lot of people to make a movie. It takes a lot of moving parts. And I met the artist who sang at the cast and crew screening they held, and she's super sweet. And like, my cousin jumped on that TikTok and initially without asked me before she commented on it, being like, that's my cousin. And then also it's confusing because it is me, it's my face. Like, how is it? Now it's me, but also it's not. So I just wanted to like make a TikTok to really be like, hey, this is how it goes. I want to give credit where credit is due, and also know like I do sing, and it's cool that I was able to like do this and embody this person's voice. But also my voice is like pretty similar, but kind of very much not. So I was like, I want also people to know like what my voice sounds like, and so they can actually like, if they are into like my music, they are into what I bring to the table, that they can also like branch out. And like from this, Nasha, the artist who's singing, like she has amazing songs on like Spotify. She has an amazing TikTok herself with her singing in like Union Square, which is like brave. I could never do that. Every time I have to go through the Union Square subway, I am dissociating. So it was just like a good opportunity for me to be like, okay, if this is like one of the first pinnacle points in my career, how do I want to like go forward? Do I want to make it all about me and make it be like, oh, I'm super cool, and yeah, no, that was me? And do I want to lie? Or do I want to be like, hey, the reality of it is this is the industry, and I'd rather like have two people get credit and have exposure for like the talent that's very hard to like, one, make it in this industry, and let alone like have a platform to talk about it. So yeah, so I made a TikTok, and it was not expecting it to blow up as much as it really did. And it was also just exciting for people to be like, well, you still ate, girl. And like people, extras commenting, being like, I was there on set and like you had crutches and you still rocked it and it was so hot and we were sweating and you really like nailed it. And I was like, see, and that's sweet. It could have gone any other way. And I just didn't really want like weird, petty behavior, mean girl energy when it could just be nice, mean girl energy all around. So that was a very convoluted answer, but yeah.
I was also gonna say that I love now that like two people got to be a part of that iconic moment. And
Right?
because that information is never put anywhere. Like I don't know if it's in the credits because
No,
I'm
and that's the other
not
thing
sure.
that's kind of like, like the reality of it. And it's also kind of like, you make it to this point, but like it's up to whoever's up top to make that like, oops, sorry, my phone just went off. It's up to the people like the head honchos on like how they want to like represent the people in their film. And I think they made it very like ensemble driven, because it is a very ensemble driven like cast, and there's a bunch of people singing and a bunch of people dancing. So having it credited as the ensemble honestly does make sense because there's so many people. But at the same time, it's like yeah, I don't know. It is her voice, and I think it would be cool for her name to be on the actual album. I was actually like FaceTiming with Brian, who plays Shane Oman, yesterday, because he's like my neighbor and pal from this experience. I realized that we like live really close to each other, and he's just a good guy overall. But and he was like, I didn't know you were on the album. And I was like, oh, so you don't even know. I was like, babe, I'm not. I am spiritually, but physically, no. So yeah.
Yeah, that definitely should be made public.
Yeah, I think like it just it's just also lost in translation with like the people who are on the marketing team aren't probably made privy of like everybody on the film, because they're instructed to like highlight like the people, the stars of the film, the principal cast, which is like what movies are. I get that. But yeah, it would have been cool to have a little bit more like communication on that, and a little bit more like just like awareness, so I wouldn't have to be the one to like set the record straight and like feel like it's my responsibility when ultimately it's not. But what I've learned from my many years in therapy is that the only thing you can control is yourself. And the only thing you can do is actively like represent yourself in the way you want to be represented. And so I think TikTok really is a strange platform and app and makes my brain rot, but also I'm not like getting interviewed by ET. I'm getting interviewed by Alison and Noa. But, like that's my only opportunity to be like, hey, what's up? And I was a little bit nervous because I didn't know if like Paramount would be like, hey, please don't say shit like that. But also it's like, at the same time, it's my face. So you didn't, and nobody was credited, and it's confusing. And now people are like, I don't want people to dox me because I showed up on set and just like lip saying my ass off, like, I'm honored that people think it's me. That means I really sold it, I guess.
Yes.
Oh, you did really sell it. And I think it's inspiring how you hold your ethics still, and you make sure to really follow them. And just because you're in an industry where, like you said, it's easy to go around the ethics, you still really uphold those values. And I think that's very inspiring for people who want to get into the industry to hear. So that was great advice.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I know. I just feel like we've seen it in like growing up in like, well, I don't know when you were born, and it's okay, you don't need to tell me, but just like go in the grocery store and you see like tabloids, and you grow up watching like Entertainment Tonight while you're eating dinner with your family or something, or Access Hollywood, and like it's all PR, it's all marketing. And if you are a working actor who doesn't have the money to hire PR, doesn't have the time or resources because you're like working 5 billion different jobs, what can you do? You can just speak from the heart, and hopefully that's received well.
100%. And I mean, this Mean Girls phenomenon is like it's taking over the world. So how has life been like for you since the release of the movie?
I mean, awesome, but also like the same. Like, again, working actors, we are at like seeing that the box office hit that I was like, that's phenomenal, because that means so many people all over the world like have seen my work in a way that I never thought was possible before. And like, but it's not like that's like going back to the studios, all that money sort of going back to like the costs of making this movie, which makes sense. I'm still like a nanny. I'm still like working multiple jobs. I'm still like auditioning. I mean, I have auditions have picked up. I got a short film that I filmed 2 days ago because they were looking for an actor, and because of my credits, like I think it's definitely putting me in a position where people are like, oh, you are legit. And I'm like, hell yeah, finally. But at the same time, it's not too different. I'm still like competing and auditioning and doing my comedy shows and working my 5 million jobs to afford being an actor and artist in the city. And yeah, it's just been really cool. A lot of like high school friends DMing me, a lot of like people I haven't talked to in 20 years being like, or not 20 years, I'm not in like, what year is it? People I haven't talked to for a couple of years being like, okay, what the hell? And being like, I had this one girl DM me the other day, and she was like a couple years ahead of me, and I always thought she was really cute, but also she was like just like a sweet friend. And she was just like, I'm in the theater right now. I did not know you're in it. I'm literally texting you while I'm watching it. This is fucking phenomenal. Like she was like freaking out and like live texting me while she's watching it. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And just having my aunts, like my mom is like one of 8, like she like was born in Mexico. A lot of my, like I come from 2 immigrant parents that like assimilated and like raised me in America. And like having them be able to, one, they're in California, so it's not like they can really see me do a bar comedy show in New York or like see my work. They're sort of just like, oh, that's cool, I guess. But so being able to like get a bunch of texts from my like relatives all over the States with them in like their movie theaters, taking a picture with the Mean Girls poster and just being like, we're so proud of you. That's really what has really like made it worth it and like made it really cool and made it real to me, is that like, oh, my family can see my work. My family can see me doing what I like love to do and like what I couldn't have done without them. So yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping that this brings more work, because that's really my goal, is just to like I guess taking it back to when I was talking about like, I'm not great at math, I'm not great at science. I know what I can do and I know what I like to do, and I just want to like have a platform where I can keep doing that and like sustain myself a little bit more. And that feels like it's on the precipice, like it's happening more. And you know, if I can book more gigs where I'm like being emotional in front of really amazing brunette women, I would love that.
Yeah. We have our fingers crossed for you, and we're
Thank
hoping
you
that all
so
those
much.
shows start coming in. Because again, even though it was, like you said, only 4 days of filming, you were just phenomenal at your part. And I watched it with my mom, and you got on screen, and I pointed and I go, I want them on the podcast. And now here we are.
Oh, well, thanks. I mean, it was so exciting to get like a podcast interview, like especially about acting, because I feel like as a New York comedian, everyone's like, I don't do podcasts often because I'm a musical comedian, so it's just like I'm just singing songs all over town. But like everyone does podcasts and talks about their life, but like being able to actually like actively talk about this is really cool. Because also like I talked to this one extra on set in between filming, and she came up to me and she was like, how are you doing this? And I was like, it's a waiting game. But then she was just talking to me. She's like, I really want to get involved, but I don't know how. And I'm at home taking care of my mom, and it's like really hard. And like my dad had a stroke when I was in high school. Like I'm an active caregiver when I'm in California. When I'm like going back and forth, I'm trying to like develop work more about caregiving and like people with different disabilities and different abilities. And it was just like, first I was like, you know, you just have to keep doing what you're doing, and you're here. You're literally here. You've made it. Just keep actively working for yourself and knowing like what you need to do, and like keep your I don't know, be true to yourself, and like know that the work that you're putting in into your family is going to help you in your acting. Like you know, it all goes back to like that role where I was a Latinx depressed teen. And I was like, yeah, I've been there. I've been there. I've done that. It sucked. But because of that, I'm able to actually like do these roles at a younger age now because I've been through some shit already. And like people go through shit and being able to like use that in like, you know, a 15-second moment of fame is like what it's all about and makes it worth it and like makes all the like hard work and stuff that you go through really worth it. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of just been
No,
rambling.
that's good advice, like for anybody. Hmm.
Yeah.
Were you a fan of the original Mean Girls and or the musical before? And do you have a favorite song from it?
What if I was like, I actually have never seen it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's funny because so you know, there's like that thing on Instagram right now where everyone's like, share a picture of yourself at 21 or whatever. And so I was doing that, and I found a picture of me, my mom, and my aunt at the Mean Girls musical, like taking a picture in 20 like whatever, whenever it was on Broadway, and I was like, the foreshadowing is bananas.
Moment.
Literally. Well, one in the film, I love Avantika's take on the Halloween song. I think that song slaps in general. When I saw it on Broadway, I was like, this is so funny. And also Jeff is just amazing at writing songs. So it's like hard to pick because I think he's just so funny and talented that his music is just like, you know, it's all really great. But yeah, the movie I would watch all the time. Like, are you kidding me? I was like, I watched on like, you know, you'd like go on like trips with your class in like the big buses, and they have like whatever movies on. It was like 100% most of the time Mean Girls. Just like growing up with that, and then auditioning for a bunch of different roles, and then seeing that this was one of them, and I was like, okay, here we go. Now's my time because I've watched this movie so much, so many times, in so many different circumstances. Yeah, it's just iconic, and being able to tell people that I booked that role, and then the immediate reaction was like, "That's iconic." I was like, "Thank you."
And I mean, you talked about this a little bit, but your music, I mean, you incorporate comedy into it. So how do you add a comedic touch to all your music while still writing impactful lyrics?
Ooh, okay. One, thanks for the compliment of impactful. Appreciate that. Also great question. So you know, I started doing stand-up because I didn't make it onto the like my college sketch team or improv troupe because they said that I took up too much attention, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll do stand-up. Thanks for that. I was like, okay, I know I'm a Leo, but calm down, everybody. That's performance. But so then I started doing stand-up, and I took like an improv to stand-up class, and it was really like informative of like, okay, well, talk about yourself and talk about this, but also it doesn't have to be like so scripted. And that made more sense for me. But then at the same time, I was like really influenced by like Mitski and Angel Olsen, and I'm like singing all these sad girl indie pop music to myself, and I'm writing. I have all these like indie songs that I'm trying to like release in the next year because I'm like, life is short. Why not share them? And I'm also taking this like songwriting course with Adrian Lanker from Big Thief right now, and that's been just like wild to have somebody that I like admire so much talk about songwriting. But in terms of comedy, I was doing stand-up, and I just felt like I was like, one, like I'm biracial, I'm bisexual, gender doesn't exist to me. Like I just felt like I was commodifying a lot of my identity as opposed to like living in it. Oops, I don't know why my sound is on. Whoops. Okay, I'm gonna say that again for the sound bite. Oop. I felt like I was commodifying a lot of my identity as opposed to just like living in like my life. But then I also didn't know really how to like process all these big emotions or like talk about it because it's happening in front of me. So instead of like writing the sad songs, I was like, so what if I saw like Kat Cohen do her show at like UCB, like what a long time ago before she blew up, like, you know, we all know Bo Burnham, and we all like, but also it was like, I grew up with this guy named like Daffy Dave, and he would come to birthday parties and he would sing and he'd be like this clown. And I was like, this guy knows what the fuck is up. And I was like 5 watching him being like, I don't know what this is, but I like it. And then growing up, I was like, oh, I guess I can try and do that in some. So Daffy Dave, if you're listening to this, I love you. But I actually hope he's alive. But anyhow, basically I was just like, okay, I also love like Jonathan Richman and like all of these musical greats who are like super intentional and funny with their lyrics, but also like are pulling in real musical emotion into it. So I kind of was just drawing from all my influences and being like, let's see if this works. And it has worked out. And it also has helped me process a lot of like weird feelings and sort of like laughing about them in a way where I'm not like fully making fun of myself, but trying to like just put the emotion and feeling of feeling like kind of like cuckoo luku or like anxious or like, you know, dating is weird and like the internet is weird. It's like, how do you process all that emotion? So just finding a way to put that on with music. And the one thing I've really learned through like Adrienne Lenker's class is she was like talking a lot about like intuitive compass. And like, I've never really heard that a lot with songwriters. It's very much like A, B, bridge, whatever. And I never really learned that because I sort of just jumped into it. So hearing like someone I really admire talk about like following your intuitive compass, and that's sort of like my whole thing in terms of like writing music and writing comedy and writing them together. It's just like, how is it intuitively coming out and making me feel? And through that, people are like, okay, I relate to that, because you're just tapping into your intuition. So that's my answer.
No, that's great. You have so much great advice, especially for people who want to go into music or songwriting or acting. Like, it's hard to get that start and to find out like what you have to do. So this has been so helpful.
Oh, I'm so glad. I mean, like, I love talking about it. And the thing is, like, I'm like in my 20s, and a lot of the other actors, like Gabby Sela and Mo and Ari and all these people are like, we're all like in our early 20s in different stages. And like being able to like also create work independently and like produce my own work, and like that's what they always tell you in college. It's like, well, you have to make your own work, blah, 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 blah. But also like talking to people who are younger than me and are just getting into this industry too. And like, there's so much stuff that you can hear from podcasts, you can hear from interviews that I found really helpful, but also just like, I don't know, I'm new to it too. So being able to like relay that information early on, so people, one, don't beat themselves up because this is a bananas industry. Two, can like feel empowered in an industry that can feel very much like you have no say or will. It's just like important, because then it helps you also stand out, because you're like sticking to your gun, sticking to your intuition, and sticking to what you want to do. And that's what's going to like pull you out first and foremost into the industry.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And here at Entertainment Roadmap, we love to do a hot seat. I'm so sorry, my dog started barking.
I love it. What kind of dog is it?
It's a golden retriever.
Oh,
I have three. I have a golden retriever, a schnauzer poodle mix, and a mini.
You have a schnoodle?
Yes.
Okay, dude. I was literally, I want a schnoodle so bad.
He's the best dog. Like 100% recommend.
They're so smart and
They
cute
really are. Yes.
and hypoallergenic. Plug.
Perfect. He does not shed. He's the best dog, but
What an
you
angel.
should
Oh,
not-
so sorry.
no, all good. So we like to do hot seat questions here at Entertainment Roadmap. Would you be down to play around?
Let's go.
Here we go. Are you a morning or a night person?
Night. Oh my God, yeah. Night, night, night.
What's your current favorite movie or TV show?
Ooh, I'm really into The Curse right now, like everybody else. It's a very cool show. I mean, Showtime. So if you have that hookup connect to get into that streaming, I say highly recommend. It's a show that I've never seen. I think it really explores like a bunch of different identities in a comedic lens that is really like interesting. And similarly enough, there's a show on Hulu called This Fool, and it's a show that I found because we just randomly put it on, but I didn't get a lot of press because of the strike. But it's one of the funniest shows on TV right now, and it really explores like being Latina, Latino, Latinx in like in multiple diasporas, but also especially like LA and California, and like, what does it mean to be Latino or Latinx? Like, what if you're just like a nerd? You know, like, what if you're not like the chola type? Like, what does that mean? And they really explore that in a really funny way that I'm, fingers crossed, if they have a third season, I really would love to like get on there. And like, I just love it. It's so funny and so well written. And I haven't like laughed out loud at a TV show in so long. So highly recommend.
Oh my gosh, I'll have to check that out.
It's so funny.
I feel like the strike impacted so many poor TV shows and movies. Like there's so many out that we don't even know about right now because there's
Yeah, and so many people got write-ups, but they couldn't share it because that's like against the SAG rules. So they were like sharing it all at the end, being like, please, 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 please. And so I just really hope that like people recognize, because it was like a really good show.
Yeah, we'll definitely check it out. And do you have a song that is currently on repeat?
Do I have a song that's on repeat right now? I like want to check my Spotify. Is that crazy? Let me see. Hot seat. Let me see. Like songs. What's going on? Okay. Okay. This is like, I kind of like make podcast, or not podcasts. I make playlists for myself for certain roles, just to like have some sort of like, you know, everybody when they're like walking down the street loves to feel like a main character. And so if I'm actually like a character, I like to have some sort of song to tap into. And so I recently played in like a deranged masseuse in this short film it was really awesome. But I was listening to ABBA, like If It Wasn't for the Nights, like on repeat, because it's such a cheerful song, but the words are like, I'm working all the time and you don't recognize like the work I'm doing. And it was just like, it's really like la 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 la, but also a little bit deranged in the lyrics. So I'm really tapping back into ABBA, and I'm trying to think what else I've been listening to. Shannon and the Clams is like a big band for me. I grew up with them. They're like Bay Area, Pacific Northwest band that they've like been through a lot the past couple of years, but they just released a new single, The Moon Is in the Wrong Place, and their music video is really cool, and I hope to one day maybe make a music video for them if I'm ever so lucky to. But yeah, that's a really good one too. It's very like psychedelic and a little bit like dark. So good for people going through seasonal depression.
These are good recommendations, and I haven't even heard of some of them, so I'll check them out.
Hell yeah.
If there was a documentary of your life, who would you want to play you?
Myself. Definitely just so I could get the acting credit, you know?
Yes.
But also, like, I don't know, it's interesting because everyone who like meets me now is like, oh, you're like Alana Glazer, oh, you're like Auli'i Shawkat or whatever, and or Shawkat, I never know how to say her last name. Well, I mean, honored because nobody knows how to say my last name either, which is valid. But yeah, I don't know who would play me, because everybody who like talks to me always says I look like people who are older than me. So I think that person is still out there and just hasn't like infiltrated yet. And so I'm honored to, I look forward to meeting them.
Well, Sophia, thank you so much for joining us today. We had such a great time, and it was so fun to hear all about Mean Girls and your iconic scenes and your music. Thank you so much again.
Oh my gosh, thank you too. It was so nice to meet you. Where are you? Are you in LA?
I'm in New Jersey.
Oh, you're in Jersey? Okay,
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Where
I'm in
Jersey?
Canada.
Oh, you're in Canada? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I'm in Princeton, New Jersey.
Okay, yeah, we shot in like Middletown. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
you guys weren't too far from me. So
yeah. Oh my God, no way. It's super cute over there, honestly. I went to like after my fitting, I drove to like some random like diner that had like a weird Elvis statue in the front, and it was like a beachy town, and I was like, yeah, I'd run away here if I needed to.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate all
Thank
your
you. Of course.